So what happens is, instead of getting your sheet of paper when the doctor says you hurt your elbow and you need to do arm exercises, so they could set up the exercises on a tablet. And what I'm going to do is zoom in here. This is actually the software that we created that's on this tablet. The doctor chooses from a number of different exercises they can do, assigns your sets and reps, and then hits the button, and that goes to your app. Once that app uploads, it reminds you to do those exercises. There's a sensor that'll tell you what you're supposed to be doing, and it gives you an idea of how you're doing as far as doing your exercises. So the reminders, other people in your life that say, hey, Tom, do your exercises. And then again, sensors are used to improve the compliance. This guy is supposed to be actually, there we go. He's supposed to be doing his leg motion. So you can see here where the sensor is on his leg. So that sensor is keeping track of something called a range of motion from here up to here, which is probably about 110 degrees. So if you've had knee surgery or you're recovering from some sort of accident, people in really good shape should have a range of motion of about 120 degrees when they do this exercise. So anything over 100 is considered good. All right. So the therapy is adjusted by the doctor all over the cloud, and then at some point you can go back to the doctor and they'll check you out and they'll say you're doing well, or they can yell at you for not doing your exercises. All right, so we're back to me. So that's the first company I was going to tell you about. The company is called Theratech. And we're just launching that system now to physical therapists and chiropractors near you. So young people, if you get injured and you want to go to a physical therapist, you can ask them where their Theratech app is. So that's my entrepreneur talking. I'm trying to do sales as we sit here. All right. Wanted to tell you about another company as well. You know, we think of medicine as something where you go to the doctor, they do something to you, they put a cast on your arm, or, you know, they cut something open. The first example I gave you with Theratech is an example of medicine where it's called behavior change, where they're trying to get you to do something yourself that's good for you. There are other forms of medicine that are, I would call them, less understood and much less used. One of them is something called light therapy. And I'm going to show you an example of a system that uses infrared light. It's really deep red and so red you can't see it kind of light that actually interacts with your body and does things. So I'm going to share my screen again and show you a little bit about how this might work. So let me share my screen one more time. So now, can you guys see this again? Yes?
Yes, we can see it.
Great. All right, thumbs up. All right. I don't know how much biology you guys have so far, but you're all very intelligent people, and these things are called mitochondria. Every one of our cells in our body has a whole bunch of stuff in it. You know, we're a really pretty complicated piece of equipment walking around. This is a cell, and all of these different pieces, there's something called a nucleus, and what I'm going to talk to you about is these little guys called mitochondria. If you want to think about it in terms of how a city or country works, you know, there are power plants and stuff that actually generate energy. The mitochondria are your power plants of your cell. What they do is take oxygen and then something called, well, it's a kind of sugar, and they do some chemical processes and spit out little chemical energy packs called ATP, and that powers the rest of the cell to do what it's supposed to. Well, it ends up that infrared light, depending on the color of that light, actually changes how much energy those mitochondria actually make. Somebody wanted to get specific, 810 nanometers, which is very red, actually speeds up your processes and makes more energy. And then 750 and 950 nanometers of light actually slow your cells down. So I'm working with a company right now that does something that helps with when your cells really should slow down. You ever get ice put on yourself when you sprain your ankle or hurt something? You got a big bruise and your parents put ice on it. Well, this is effectively the same thing as putting ice on your cells without having the ice. You're slowing down the mechanisms that the cells need to work on. And there's some severe things that happen. For example, if somebody has a cardiac arrest and then they get brought back to life, what happens is during this, your cells, mitochondria are working normally. Then they're something called ischemic, where they're running out of oxygen. And when they get brought back to having as much oxygen as they want, the mitochondria overreact and make too much of the energy and actually blows up the cell. Blows up is not a technical term. The cell actually dies because there's too much of some things in there. If you shine this light on those cells, it slows down the overreaction and keeps the cell from damaging itself. This is useful, especially in the brain. You can't put ice on your brain. You can cool your whole body down, but that takes a long time and it's really hard to control. So if you have a brain injury, you fall off your skateboard and you whack your head on the sidewalk without wearing a helmet, always wear a helmet, then this can be used to treat people that have brain injuries or recovering from having a cardiac arrest, for example. Wanted to show you those things as examples of systems and devices and products that people are making now that are medical in nature and that can be wildly successful if you want to go spend your time creating those systems. All right, that's my presentation on what I do for a living, which is project management and then starting and running companies.
Great,
Cheryl,
Tom.
go ahead, Cheryl.
So I'm going to ask the kids if you've got any questions to put them in the Q&A. We'll give them some time to write those questions in. I did have a question about the Theratech sensor. Is that an accelerometer? Is that the sensor?
It's something called a 9-axis motion sensor. It has an accelerometer in all 3 planes. It has a gyroscope in all 3 planes. And it actually has something called a magnetometer that will tell you the specific direction you're in all 3 planes. The accelerometer is very useful in telling you where down is because you always have a gravitational pull. So you always know where down is. And from there, you can, oh, I'm actually still sharing, aren't I, Cheryl? Here we go. I'll stop sharing. So from Alec, the stuff we talked about sort of made me a little uncomfortable. Sorry about that. How long is this? How long is what?
I think it's the workshop, and I think we'll probably, it's probably going to be just a little bit over an hour. So if
The
people want to,
mitochondria are several microns long, if that's what your long is.
and then we've got a question, Tom, saying, when did you start to have an interest in this?
My mom, I started when I was probably 8 or 9. My mom taught microbiology at the college level in Wisconsin, and I was fascinated by cells. My sister's gone on to become a doctor, and at one point I did consider becoming a doctor, but I didn't want to spend the 30 years of my life going through that much school. So becoming an electrical engineer and working in products that, creating products for the medical industry has satisfied a very big portion of that. How does a laser change someone's voice? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if they missed. The laser was actually treating the cells, right?
Yes, the light isn't strong enough to hurt anything. What it does is it just changes the amount of energy that those mitochondria are making. And it would slow it down from normal, maybe 30–40%. And so not enough to hurt the cell, but enough to keep it from hurting itself if it's in overdrive. The cell damage thing made my stomach feel weird. Well, don't let your cells of your stomach get damaged by feeling weird.
Okay, and someone else pointed out that the sensors that the kids use in the robot are similar to the sensors that are on that on the Theratech device. And we have another question.
Yes.
Was, if you didn't have this job, what would you be?
If I didn't have this job, well, my first job out of school was working with semiconductors. I'm going to show you an example of the sensor board that goes in this motion sensor. So let's see, can you guys see this? So this is an electronics board, and it has that's a integrated circuit right there. That's a processor that takes all the information from the, let's see, I think this one over here is the gyroscope. So all that information gets fed into other bits of computer, and all of that spits out a stream of information from this to your computer or your phone, and the software analyzes it from there. I started out as an electrical engineer working in the semiconductor industry, and that's where I met Cheryl at my second job. So I'd probably still be working in the semiconductor industry. That's they make integrated circuits, otherwise known as computer chips, and that was pretty fascinating too. Or I'd be sitting on a beach in Mexico because I'm getting old. I should retire at some point, but this is too much fun. I love making new products for the medical industry.
Great. So we got a couple more questions. Greta says, do you help people be more active? So maybe you could repeat that part.
Sure. I think my company Theratech helps people be more active by recovering from their injuries faster. So if you go to the doctor and he hands you the sheet of paper or gives you the app and says, do these exercises, you'll get better faster, you should do those. And when you get better faster, you can get back outside or inside and do all of the activities that you were being kept from doing with your injury. So the technology behind Theratech is really, it's something called behavior change, and that can be used to get people outside and doing the right things for their health as well. There are a bunch of other software packages that use behavior change. One of them is called Noom. I've used that, but there are a bunch of those. It's all reminding people to do the activities that are good for them. And if you love them, then go do those. Ride your bike, skateboard, but wear your helmet so I don't have to use the other technology on you.
We have a question. Do you still work in quarantine?
Do I still work in quarantine? Yes. As we sit here, I am in quarantine. Yes, one of the great things about being a knowledge worker, having gotten my electrical engineering degree and doing a lot of work on a computer screen, is that I can do that from anywhere. I'm planning early next spring to go spend a couple weeks on a boat with a friend in Lake Michigan, and I'll just be working from there. I do like going and visiting my clients because having that interaction with them is I think better than talking to them on Zoom, but this is pretty good. And then virtual and augmented reality is going to make things even less like we're not sitting next to each other. So these are getting better. That was a long answer to a short question. Yes.
It was a good question. And someone asked, what coding languages do you use?
I've never been somebody that likes to code. I've used COBOL and BASIC. So, and if you want to look those up, they were, the several dinosaurs used those way back in the day. So yes, I'm a dinosaur. Pokemon Go is augmented reality. Exactly. That is an example of that.
One question to ask was, do some people get hit by the consequences and not know that it's their lack of exercise and just keeping and staying inside? So I think he's wondering if people don't exercise, do they not realize that it will affect them later?
I'm going to twist that around a little bit. I don't think we need to do things that are just quote unquote exercise. It's really just go be active. If you like walking or running or riding your bike, those aren't necessarily exercise. You don't have to do push-ups to be active. It's get your heart rate up. Go chase a friend. Go jump on a trampoline. It's being active, letting your body do stuff, getting your body to do stuff, but don't have it be exercise. Yeah. Or call it exercise and enjoy it anyway. So that's the, and if you like to quote unquote exercise, by all means, go do that. But yeah, it's really just get out and do stuff you like to do.
I think we just got a few more. There's one about, someone's asking about how long do you think you should be active? And I think I'm going to save that question for Lucian. She's the expert on that, the physical training part of it. So we'll save that one for her. But someone's asking, what's the favorite part of your job?
I like figuring out the early parts of a project. What's actually going to work for the situation that that we're under right now. Let me see if I have something to show you guys here. Nope, I don't have that. I like working with teams to put together the early stages of a project where we're figuring out what's going to work. And then getting people excited about it and making sure they have all of the things they need to do their job well. So I guess that kind of makes me a manager, doesn't it? So I like doing project management. And once in a while, I know this is weird, but I like going to surgeries and seeing what the insides of people's bodies look like.
I think some kids are getting the weebie-jeebies again.
Sorry about that. I think the human body is just fascinating, and I love going to see how things get changed. And
so someone asked, and I don't know if Tom would be the expert on this, but we can ask, do you know of other apps that help people exercise or include augmented reality? Maybe you know.
I haven't found any augmented reality exercise stuff. That's a great question. I'm going to go see Augmented reality's just exploded in the last year. There have been some new systems that are coming out. I learned about something called an Oculus Quest 2 yesterday that's just kind of, that's creating a new paradigm. So I would expect that stuff really soon, where you can go to an exercise class in your basement and there'll be people around you in the augmented reality and doing stuff, showing you how to do stuff. Yeah, that I'm just wildly excited about how that's going to go here shortly. And that's coming. That's probably within a year, there are going to be things like that. Does my
we have
company
another
have
one
any...
that said, and I think this is more like, perhaps like, who inspires you the most in your dreams? So Tom, do you have any heroes that you get inspired by?
I really like Bill Gates. He's actually about the same age I am, so that makes me kind of old. But I love how he's really taken the he's really taken software and made it useful for humanity. So I really like that.
And someone asked a question, do you have competitors in your space for some of the apps that you're working on, some of the products?
In the apps, there are hundreds of competitors. I think we do something unique where we really work with that sensor to get specific feedback and then send that back to the clinicians. So that's not very common. There might be a couple companies that are doing that along with, but there are hundreds of exercise apps that count on you saying what you did. And so, and there's then nobody that's doing anything with the light. Nobody else is trying to slow cells down with infrared light. That's brand new. That's a major new area that's going to be a kind of a new Microsoft or Medtronic as that gets going. So I'm very excited about that too.
Taylor has a question. Do you ever get scared to try something no one has ever done before?
Absolutely. And you know what? Whether I'm afraid or not, is it going to help? Is it going to be fun? Go do it.
And I want to
put a plan together. Don't just jump in, but put together some plans and go research and figure out what you want to do and go do it.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, please, Cheryl, that was it. Go fail.
Well, I will say, when something works for the first time, and the kids that have done a robot run, when that robot finally does the thing you programmed it to do, there's a special feeling you get of excitement. It's kind of a little bit like a drug, because you've done something that you've never done before. And even when I worked as an engineer, when you finally get something to work, it is the best feeling ever. It's so exciting.
I agree.
All right, and then I'm going to have this be the last question for Tom. Do you like to see how people's bodies are before and after surgery?
Yes. Not as much as I like seeing how things work. But sure. And right. I've had some surgeries where things didn't work very well before, and then afterwards they work great. So yeah, I really like it when things work, when things change on me. But yeah, that's why I'm in it, to help people get back to the way either they were before or better. That's why I do this.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Tom, for sharing your expertise. We're going to have another presenter. Oh, it was really helpful. So thank you. That was awesome. And it's so good working with you again. And our next speaker is going to be Lucian Olsen. We're going to hand it off to her in just a second. I'm going to, so if you guys have any questions for Lucian, you can type them in the Q&A. We're going to have her chat a little bit first before she answers any questions. Lucian is a personal trainer, and I'm going to have her share kind of her story. I do know, though, that she does great work. We have a mutual friend that she helped lose over 100 pounds this last year, and she made someone that wasn't fit again. So kudos to her and her hard work, and we're going to take it away. Thanks again, Tom.
Thanks, Cheryl. Hello, everyone. I'm Lucian. I am going to share my screen with you so I can start sharing a few things. And you're going to notice that some of the things that Tom shared are going to be parallel with what I share. So a little bit about me. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. So I'm a personal trainer. I'm a coach. I also am a professional bodybuilder. Oh, did we just get zooted out? Can you guys still see my screen? No. Okay.
Second.
Let me try one more time. Okay.
We can see it now. Yep.
Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm a coach. I'm a trainer. In my personal life, I also compete as a professional bodybuilder and a strongman competitor. I'm a yoga instructor and a nutrition educator. So that sounds like a big laundry list of things. But really, as a coach in my industry, I have a series of certifications. My degree is in exercise science and nutrition. But really, my company, Revival Training, the way that I try to reach people is a holistic level of health, meaning considering the mind, the body, and the spirit. So kind of like Tom said, like everyone doesn't have to exercise. And I'm going to make that same kind of distinction too, where exercise and movement are two different things. So for the person that loves to exercise or that might have health conditions where they should exercise, then that's great. But movement is just something that all of our bodies are made to do. And when they don't move, that's when you start having some of the problems where, you know, surgery, PT, OT can come in. So again, about my company, two of the things that I really try to stand on is meeting people where they're at. Fitness and physical activity looks very different for everyone. Nor is there a one size fits all. So although we hear exercise guidelines saying, you know, you should be moderate exercise for 60 minutes a day or light exercise for this many minutes a day, really everyone is very different in the type of movement or exercise that they need and the type of movement or exercise that works best for them for various reasons. Another thing that is really important to me is helping people connect to the why. So a lot of times when you have a why, or when you know why you're doing something, instead of just waking up and thinking, oh, I have to be active every day, so I'm just going to go jog every day, I don't have a lot of purpose in that connection. So when I'm able to really say, you know what, I'm going to get up and run every day because I love the way it makes my body feel. It makes me think differently. It makes me feel, it makes me be a better person in my relationships. Those are some of the things that are the most important in health and fitness, in my opinion. So one of my first slides is just going to kind of go over 3 big barriers to movement. And I'm specifically saying movement and not exercise, but we'll talk about both. One of the big things is time. I think both for kids and adults, especially children in sports or, you know, any kinds of activities, we have a lot of things going on day to day. We have a lot of people to be accountable to. We have a lot of places to be. So a lot of times people's, one of the barriers is going to be time, because how do you fit it in amongst all these other things? And if it's not really important to you, the other important things become more important. So on the bottom, at the top here on these slides, I have kind of what the barriers are. And then below, I have some of the tips that I would say to get over those barriers. So as time goes, we would talk about just, if you don't have an hour to work out in the gym every day or to be active every day, maybe it's short, more frequent activity. Maybe it's every couple of hours setting a timer so that you can get up from your class or from your work and go walk around the block. Maybe it's standing up and doing some squats a couple times a day. You know, whatever that might be. Maybe it's taking like a play break, like your own recess during the day. That is going to be very important, but also scheduling it. So like I said, we have many commitments. We have lots of stuff going on. And so if you don't make, if you're not being intentional about your time, other things can take over. And another thing is even for people who really do prioritize exercise and want to exercise every day, life happens. So even for the most motivated person, there are things come up consistently. So when you kind of have a routine, or when you start building habits so that support exercise or movement, that's when it really starts to stick. So a second barrier would be access. So this is a big one, because access can be something as big as what gyms do you have in your neighborhood. Access can also be something like, is your neighborhood safe enough to go for a walk-in? So that's one big thing to consider with activity and movement. Do I have access to equipment to have in my house? Do I have a treadmill at home? And this can be really defeating for some people, because sometimes people think that they need to have a full gym, that they need to have a lot of equipment, that they need to have all this stuff, which we'll talk about, you actually don't. So two of the things that can help you get over this barrier would be, one, just going outside. Now, granted, that's easier said than done in Minnesota. I like to think about what you can do in the seasons, right? So our activities in the spring might not be the same, will not be, hopefully, the same as they are in the winter. So whether maybe your winter activities include skiing, that's physical activity. Maybe it's going outside and just having a snowball fight. That's physical activity. A lot of times, having something that's more play and not so structured, like an exercise routine, is also really, really good for us, not just for our bodies, but also for our minds and for our spirits. We are happy, we can be free. It's like a childlike play again, for adults, but also definitely for kids. So another piece with access would be resources. So we talked a little bit about this with Tom, but I mean, right now, especially coming out of COVID, resources to exercise, there are so many. So there are so many apps. One thing I didn't mention is my company also has an app, and it's very much where you log in your exercises, you get rewarded. It's keeping track of, how many pounds you lifted or how fast you did something. It's telling you that you reached these goals, which for us, we want to know. It's very helpful to know that you're moving forward in some area or that you are getting better. So a lot of times apps will have like a competition kind of built into it, or just a really cool way to track and check off that helps us feel and know that we're staying accountable to whatever it is that we set for a goal. Other really cool resources is like a new mirror just came out, and it's actually just a body length mirror that you hang on your wall, and it comes with a software where a instructor appears on the mirror and does the workout class with you. And so you see yourself, but then you also see this virtual person pop up and lead you through a whole workout. There are bikes that do this. There are treadmills that do this, where you have a screen built in, and you pay for a monthly subscription, and you have access to, in a lot of cases, hundreds of classes, and lots of different kinds of classes too. So one of the things that we also do with our app with Revival is, even if I have clients that I'm seeing in person, like I said, life happens. People have to travel. People have, various things that they have to do. So in the event that life happens, and let's say you go to a hotel and you have nothing for equipment, or you go to a cabin and you have nothing for equipment, that's where this app would come in. And so then I program you a exercise routine. And because I work with people on a pretty individual basis, I'm able to really give them exactly what is specific to them. But there are hundreds of apps that you can download and kind of type in your metrics, and it will spit out a workout for you. So another barrier would be mindset. This is a big one, just because with mindset, like we can really get ahead of ourselves. So we can think, oh, this exercise thing, there's so much. I don't have an hour every day. I don't have all this equipment. I don't have all this stuff. And it immediately just kind of makes you not want to approach it at all in general. Another thing is boredom. So like if you're doing the same routine every day, like I said, if I'm getting up and just going outside to jog every day because I think that's what I'm supposed to do, if that's not what I really like and that's not what I really love, I'm going to get bored of it, and it's not going to be that sustainable. So one of the other themes that I'm going to keep bringing up is like, what is sustainable for someone, and what can be something that can just be there for them, that they can continue to do every day. Another thing is just the self-confidence. So for a lot of people, working out in the gym is really intimidating, and they wouldn't go into the gym. So working out at home is actually a great option. Sometimes it's even like, how can we be social? How can we bring our family and our friends into this? So like for a parent to maybe go walk during their kids' practice, soccer practice, or next time you're with a friend, maybe instead of sitting down on the couch to have a conversation and talk, maybe you guys take it like a moving meeting and you go walk instead. So really bringing in the social aspect is really important too. because connecting with others is still a large part of our health and wellness. Another part of that would be, what do you actually enjoy? And that's something that I ask people a lot, because again, with fitness, I think sometimes we don't even consider that we have our own opinions and thoughts too. So yes, you can look to a fitness professional or an app to program a workout routine for you, but what do you actually like doing? Like, do you like gardening? Do you like rollerblading? These are all forms of movement that still 100% count. And if you love to do it, probably will not be that hard to do consistently. And the last thing for mindset is just having options. So not being married to one thing or another, being able to call up that friend, being able to go to the gym, being able to go to a class when you feel like you want to be around more people. Having options is always really empowering too. Okay, so this is where, I skipped too ahead. So this is where being in the gym, this is one thing that I notice with my clients is exercise can be really uncomfortable. And now I'm talking about actual exercise versus movement. Some people don't like to sweat. They don't like to be too hot. They don't like to be too cold. I don't like to be too cold because I don't work out in the winter, personally outside. Sore muscles, feeling a sore body. Like, a lot of people don't like that. That doesn't feel good to them. Getting up early or maybe staying up late for a workout routine. These are all working out in front of people. Again, like, these are things that make people uncomfortable. On the other side, you see the rewards. And this is not even a general list. This is a very small list. I mean, the rewards for exercise, I could fill up this whole page. But really, it's about connecting to your why and starting to figure out why this thing works for you. So for a lot of people that come in and they say, oh, well, I should probably go run every time before I train, and I should do this and I should do this. Well, why? Why do you want to do that? And then once you do those things, what is the difference that works for you? So for me, I like that my sleep is improved. It lowers my anxiety. I'm a better mom. I'm a better person in my relationships. For other people, they might just like to feel like they're building muscle and they're getting stronger. So the benefits of exercise and the rewards of exercise can be different for all of us, and they can change at any time too. And that's why you also want to be fluid with the things that you have access to. So maybe I want to feel strong and I want to go in the gym and lift weights. And then maybe I want to feel fast and go outside and run with my friends. Like, it's all about the application and kind of what works for you at any time. And so a lot of technologies now give you that flexibility to do that, which is really nice. So this is kind of my wrap. Really the big things that I feel like are needed for someone to be active and stay active is, like I said, that sustainability piece. If you can't get up and go to the gym for an hour a day, every single day, or if you don't like to, it will not be sustainable in the long term. So what's the most important is taking those little things that are the most sustainable. Enjoyment. You have to enjoy what you do. You shouldn't suffer the whole time. So you should like to do your dance class, or you should like to do your virtual stuff, or you should like to be lifting weights in the gym. And then lastly is that community support. So for some people, it's just coming and being accountable to a trainer. For some people, it's going to that group fitness class and seeing those other people that are there working out with you. But that social support is really, really important too. And so I know I talked very quickly, and I'm sure there are lots of questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen really quick. I know I spoke really quickly, but I would love to answer questions if it's about certain fitness tools.
Yeah, so Lucia, that was great. We had one question about the mirror you mentioned. How much does it cost?
I don't know the exact cost. I know it's a really cool piece of technology, so I would assume it's not as cheap as maybe subscribing to, like an app or something. Another thing I didn't mention is even just like YouTube. I kind of breezed by this one, but you can go on YouTube and type in a workout I could go onto YouTube and type in yoga for my neck, and I could find hundreds of classes. And that's a really low barrier, free way to also be able to explore different things instead of having to go out of my way to go to a class or buy a mirror. I can kind of try out different things that way.
Great. And how long do you think people should be active every day?
Well, I try to be active that's a good question. I guess I would say it depends on the person. So it's what you do overall. So like I even remind my clients when they come in and see me for an hour, and let's say they do, an intense strength training workout for an hour. Just because they invested that hour with me does not mean they get to go home and sit on the couch for the rest of the day. So it's all about that balance where, let's say if somebody's working a desk job and they can't get up and go to the gym for an hour, if they got up every hour and just moved for 5 minutes, that 100% is equivalent to the person that goes to the gym and works out for an hour. So it's really like the balance of overall. The other thing that's important to remember is our bodies aren't necessarily on a 24-hour clock. So it's also listening to your body and knowing like, oh, I feel sore, I just need to move. Movement is so important.
And someone asked a question about whether you play basketball. Maybe you could talk about game-based exercise too while you're
for sure.
answering that.
Yeah. So when I was younger, I did play basketball. I was blessed that my mom encouraged me to try lots of different sports. So I played basketball, I played track, all at the rec level. But I've had experience with these different sports. As an adult, I still, when I have clients come in, like I'll have a big group of 15 people come in and we will have just actual play time. So like to warm up for one of my group sessions, for instance, we will play a game of keep away where we just have one big ball, like let's say like a 15-pound ball, and we split into 2 teams. And for the first 5 minutes of our workout, we just play keep away from the other team. And it sounds pretty simple. Like, what are the rules? What do I have to do? But at the end of 3 minutes, sometimes even 2 minutes, everyone is very sweaty. Everyone's having a lot of fun. And again, it's just that movement. We're jumping around, we're playing. Yeah, so I still try to incorporate that as well. And I have 2 little ones. So whenever I have the opportunity to get outside with them, rollerblading, biking, any of the things that they like to do, I always try to take advantage of that time as well.
Great. This question, I'm not sure I understand it, but I'm going to ask it anyways. What do you think is the best way to exercise without endurance? So maybe it's saying to exercise without spending a lot of time, maybe that's what they want.
Well, and without endurance, so the other piece of exercise is I can exercise and not be like hot and out of breath. So exercise is also breath work. And so like sitting on the ground and just like going through different breathing patterns, or let's say yoga. Maybe the endurance question is more so like for a person that can't run, or maybe for a person that doesn't want to prioritize that. Something that's easier on your joints would be things like yoga or body weight movements, so that if you're not getting so much stress on the joints. Endurance, having a fair level of endurance is still important. And so I'm not a runner, but I do that through weight training. So I think you can build endurance in different ways. It doesn't have to look necessarily just like going outside to run. And one other thing I didn't mention is like during COVID, my business had to completely shift online. So we already had our app, but to reach people in person, I would do virtual training. So that was me getting on a Zoom call and training someone in their basement. Maybe they had equipment, maybe they didn't. And there's one person that I would meet for outdoor workouts. And near me, we have a really big lake. And around this lake, there's a walking trail. And around the walking trail, they have little stations set up for exercise. So one of the little stations is like a chest press machine where you're doing this kind of a movement. One of the stations is like a rotating wheel where you're getting your arms working. One of the stations is just free bars like you would see on a playground, like just bars that you can jump up on and maybe do dips or other kinds of exercises. But even something like that to just have in your back pocket, like I want to get outside, I want to move, I want to walk, and I want to have, a couple of other things at my fingertips. That was a really cool tool to have too.
So along with that, someone asked, do you like working during COVID, or is it hard and you don't like it?
That's a good question. I love what I do. So I connect with people, and that's really what I love to do. Before COVID, if you would have asked me if I would train people online, because I had people ask me that a lot, my answer would have been no, just because that wasn't something that I thought that I would enjoy. However, when we first went into quarantine and people were really when things were shut down, that was my way, and that was my client's way to still stay accountable and to tap into their social group. because having that and being accountable to that community is so important. Having a strong group of people, a strong friend group that shares the same values as you is really, really important.
Cool. I have a question for you, and we've got a couple more questions too from the kids, but when you developed your app, did you kind of hire a company to, and then you kind of gave them what you wanted the app to include, or did you use an existing one, or how did that happen?
Good question. So initially we did have our own platform. Most recently, actually in the last 2 months, my partner and I switched to an existing platform. So I'd say the perk is that through the app, like the individual exercises are me. The individual stretches are me. I'm able to also give, really specific things for people. So I think it's more so of that individualized programming that really works. And then also just being able to have access to more than, like you said, like just push-ups and squats, and being able to explore moving your body in different ways.
Okay. And we have a question from Kaden who said, what's your favorite exercise?
Well, that's a good question. My very favorite exercise is a deadlift. And a deadlift is basically what you would do if you bent down to pick up 2 suitcases on either side of you. So there are certain movements that we do in our daily life that are very important that our bodies we can continue to do. So hinging at our hips or bending forward is one of them. And sitting in a chair sometimes really undoes that pattern for people. So I really like that movement because it keeps my body doing what it's supposed to, really. So like a deadlift, a squat, like these are things that our bodies should just be able to do. So sometimes when I'm sitting for a long time, I'll get up and I'll just squat down. I'll pick something up. But that's my favorite exercise, which you would definitely probably do in a weight room scenario.
Great. Another question, what benefits other than preventing consequences do you get from being outside and being active? Good question.
Well, being outside in itself and just being in nature is huge for our mental and physical health. I kind of talked a little bit about the benefits. I'm looking back at this question one more time. Some of the consequences. I'm trying to find it. Okay. What benefits other than preventing consequences? I think for getting outside, it would be getting fresh air. It would be being in the sun. It would be having that free movement. A lot of times our lives, when you think about it, we go from the car to our house, from the house to our work, or, kind of in that setting. And especially in Minnesota in the wintertime, when we are inside all the time, that affects, it's what you're breathing, it's the screens you're looking at, it's the lights that you're under, it's the ways that you're sitting. It's really everything.
Great. Taylor says, I play basketball. Do you still like playing? Got a basketball fan.
I would, for sure. I have a large group of my clients actually that today we're going to go outside and do a big kickball game. Just because this seems to be our last hurrah with nice weather for this weekend. This might be our last one for the year. So yeah, I love movement, and I love any kind of play basketball.
Awesome. And Luna asked, what would you say is the easiest exercise?
That depends on the person. So I think that depends on the person, and that depends on what they do every day. So let's say I'm trying to think of a job where, let's say like an Amazon worker who's constantly doing a deadlift and picking things up. Pulling or picking something up might not be that hard. Let's say for somebody that's pushing things all the time, a pushing exercise like a push-up or a bench press might not be that hard. So it also comes back to what are we doing consistently. So when I talked about like a squat and a hinge, those are 2 major movements. But then also for our upper bodies, like pushing things and pulling things are also 2 really major movements. For the mom that is constantly picking up her kid, she might be a pull exercise might be a little bit easier for her because she's constantly used to doing that movement.
Great. Someone asked, what are the best exercises for teens to do?
That's a good question. I think, again, it depends on the person, and it depends on what you want to do. I think it's important to when I consider what health is for me, first, I think it's important to think about what is health for you and how do you feel your best? When does your body feel your best? So for me, I don't want to just be strong. I don't want to just be fast. I want to be all of those things. And that for me tells me that I am in a good place with my health, and really being balanced. So yeah.
Great. Katie was asking, what's your app called? I guess the name
It's
of
called
it.
Revival Training.
And then someone asked, does being on a screen like the mirror on a Peloton, is that good for you?
It is. And so let's say a Peloton, if you have this bike sitting in your living room and you know that you have a teacher teaching at noon, the barriers to go and get on the bike that is in your living room when you're working from home is probably pretty small. Same thing for the mirrors. However, some of these tools can still be in people's homes and not use them. So I think that's when like having an app or something that's reminding you and consistently kind of tapping you on the shoulder, or again, that social support group, like the Peloton, let's say I had a Peloton, Tom had a Peloton, and Ken had a Peloton. We could virtually meet up for a class and like compete against each other. So that even something as small as that makes that fun. Or I can compete against myself on what I did for my last ride. And that can just help you keep accountable.
Great. This person plays baseball and they're wondering what are good exercises for me. And maybe you could speak about training for specific sports. That might be a good question.
For sure. Well, you play baseball. And so my next question would be, what position do you play? But there's definitely sport-specific exercises. But I think for anyone that's playing sports, whether it's basketball, baseball, track, one really important thing is our core, and your core rotation too. So there are a lot of exercises where our cores flex and extend. So they do this, and then they resist or they rotate. So an exercise where it's helping you get stronger in this rotation so that, okay, pitcher. So when you pitch, you're rotating. When you're batting, you would be rotating. So there are certain exercises that would help get the muscles in your core or your obliques strong. But also pitching, that's a lot of shoulders. So even on top of just the exercises that you could be doing, another really big thing in fitness is the recovery side or the mobility side. Is so like it's good to exercise, but you can also be thinking about, okay, what stretches do I need to make sure that I can perform or that I have that range of motion, that I'm moving without pain. Like those are all really important pieces of an exercise routine too.
We have one last question, and it was about whether you played football. And what I'm going to maybe ask is, have you worked with people that have done some non-traditional sports where like women playing football or guys learning dance because it makes them a better soccer player, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
And maybe if people are surprised whether they like another sport.
Yeah. And so if I had the opportunity to play football, I have been told that I should have. I have not, but yes, I train people that do lots of different things. I coach bodybuilders that want to do yoga. I think there's a lot of non-traditional sports that you can get into, but and going back to like that comfortability and like having that social support, a lot of times I'll see people come into my environment or my community and maybe start to consider something that they never would have considered before. A lot of the people that compete or decide to do some kind of activity with me maybe didn't come in to see me for anything like that, but the representation was there. So sometimes when you see someone else that looks like you doing something that's really different, that allows you to think like, oh, I can do this too, which is awesome, because at the end of the day, back to the whole being uncomfortable and pushing ourselves, when you push your body and when you push your mind, that translates into the rest of your life. So you do that when you're exercising or when you're moving, but then that also translates to what you do for work, or how your creative thinking works, or how you are in a relationship. And I know I keep pulling in all these other pieces that are not necessarily exercise into health. But I think right now we're really learning that a lot of the tools and the technology that we have has to be more than that.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for all your wisdom that you shared with us. It actually got me thinking that I have played soccer with Tom, and I have played baseball with my brother Ken, and haven't done anything with Lucien yet, but you've got me motivated to go out and enjoy this fine day that we have this afternoon. So
Yes,
thank you so
you.
much.
Thank
We're
you.
glad you shared your expertise. And you actually work with some of the teams from the Minnesota STEM Partnership. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's awesome. They have kind of an exercise initiative this year. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
With that, I'm going to turn it over to Ken Greasehobber. Ken is actually my brother, and helped us out last year when we did the City Shaper season. And he is actually a landscape architect and is going to be talking a little bit how we design parks to be for people to be more active. So Ken, are you ready to go?
I think so. Yes, I am.
Okay.
How are we doing on time? It's about 11 o'clock. So
Yeah. So, I think I didn't know how long to make the meeting. I think, Tom's got to go.
Okay.
We were thinking that we'd be done whenever your presentation would be done. So it could be 11:30, whatever. So we're doing good on time.
Okay, great.
If anybody
good
wants to take a little stretch break, you can stand up while you're watching your screen and move around a little bit. With all this talk of exercise, we all want to move.
Sure. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Ken Greasehobber, and I am a landscape architect. And Lucian had some great things to share about how you need to think about really the mindset about being active and doing things with your body just to keep it fine-tuned and in shape. And I'm going to talk about more about some of the spaces, and more in the outdoor public realm that I work on and trying to design to get people active in their everyday life. And we all know that active living is really an important part of, at least there's a more awareness now. We know in our country we have a lot of issues with obesity, which keeps going up in kids and adults. And so we really need to have more people like Luciana out there that can help everybody have the mindset about trying to incorporate recreation into their everyday life. So, but I'm going to talk about some of the things we do to try to help encourage that. And I'll maybe start by showing a video that maybe I'll start and stop here a little bit just to get everybody on board about. Let's see if we can see this. Can everybody see that?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, let me get this up. Well, hang on a second. So just to start, landscape architecture is a discipline at SRF where we have actually a lot of other disciplines we all work together with. So we work with civil engineers, we work with structural engineers to help us design bridges. You can see a bike path that we had designed a bridge that crossed a wetland. We have to work with environmental permitting folks. So we have people that are thinking about how we go about getting permits to develop park and open space. And this project this image we're showing here is actually a quadrant up in Northwest Plymouth. So way back, probably in the early 80s, the quadrant of Northwest Plymouth was building a lot of homes. And a lot of cities, probably most of the inner ring suburbs around the Twin Cities, did comprehensive plans to really guide how their communities were going to unfold with development, whether it's residential development, commercial development, or parks and open space. And so way back when, the city decided they were going to preserve this big east-west quadrant of Northwest Plymouth with an abundant area of natural resources. And basically what we came in and did after that fact was design trail systems. So the trail systems connect all to the surrounding neighborhoods. So people that need to commute to work or commute to wherever they want to go, they have this linkage of trail systems to enjoy an experience and be active in their lives. So one of the things we do, we also do in our landscape architecture group when we think about our projects, we generally collaborate together in groups. And so similar to what you're probably doing in your Lego League now, we all work together developing ideas and thoughts about how we want to organize park and open spaces, how we want to line trail systems, and we actually work with the community to hear their thoughts and ideas. So it's really about collaboration. and getting a lot of different viewpoints and perspectives when we're designing any park and open space. And then often we're sharing ideas, and this is a good slide to show how, there's really some just key words that we focus on. We all want to be creative in how we think about ideas and solutions, similar to what you're trying to do right now, collaborate, and then we also want to create spaces that people can discover and explore. And Lucian kind of hit on working or playing in a natural resource environment is really great for everybody's psyche, especially now. And I hope everybody now is doing well, and you're all finding the opportunity to get out and use some of your public and open spaces around where you live. So one of the big initiatives going on in a lot of regional parks and even local parks is trying to make them more active, right? So obviously if you have a trail system, there's agencies like Three Rivers Park District that are building more and more trail systems that connect from this corridor to this corridor to this corridor. And some of you that have been involved in biking some of the trails, you can see that you can go for miles and miles and bike loops around the Twin Cities, or get to a regional park from actually where you live, which is really a great thing that we have in Minnesota that a lot of other cities across the country do not have. A lot of the other things we need to think about is how you need to think about how you can accommodate physically challenged users. So if there are people in wheelchairs, how can you design a trail system that's not too steep to accommodate those kind of user groups? This next project here is Lake Billsby Regional Park, which is in Dakota County, down near Cannon Falls, near Rochester. And so this regional park had been around for 30 plus years, and the county wanted to find ways to make it more active for people when they come to visit at the park. So they had an existing beach facility, and we came in and designed a new play area, which was really on a new type of play. It's actually, it's really classified as natural play. So instead of having built structured equipment, we came in with natural materials and designed a whole bunch of play features and water features that the kids can play on, and really make it an active place for them to do beyond some of the other activities going on at the park. And this is another project when you're designing trail systems. Oftentimes you need to design a trailhead. Some people sometimes can't bike to that facility or to that trail system. So we'll come in and design a destination parking lot for people to come, load their bikes, and then go out and head out onto the trails. And this is the bridge down by Bloomington, the old Cedar Lake Bridge. Many of you may have been there, but that's been repurposed as a bike and pedestrian bridge. So we came in to design parking facilities, and then ultimately part of the trail system, this is actually the Northwest Greenway. So you can see what a nice experience that is for people, whether they're running, biking, roller skiing, rollerblading. It's really a great place to get out and be with people, and especially now. And one of the things I'll have to say, and you've seen some of this going on right now, the environment we're living in, parks and trails are really a valuable resource that everybody's flocking to, right? Because we all need to find ways to kind of reset our minds and try to move forward with the challenging environment we're living right now. So I think that's a great thing that we have, and we're so fortunate in Minnesota to have some of the best parks and trail systems in the country. So that's just kind of a few of the projects we've worked on. I have actually another, one of the things Lucian touched on was, let me see if I can find it here. Is this it? Can everybody see that?
Not yet.
Just the image?
Nope, I don't see it yet.
Hold on, I think I gotta stop sharing.
Yeah. There we
Can
go.
you see my email? I apologize, I don't have these in a PowerPoint, but so some of the trends we're seeing in the Twin Cities, we're all trying to find ways to stay active year-round. So designing trail systems for winter mountain biking. Some of you might have fat tire bikes. but just trying to find ways, especially in Minnesota, that we all need to stay active year-round. So the idea of creating trail systems that fat tire bikes can go on in the winter, that's just a whole new phenomenon that's being incorporated in a lot of our park systems, especially our regional parks. So one of the things, SRF just actually moved to a new office location off of 394 and the star here. You can see our location of our office near Brownie Lake. And these yellow lines show all the potential bike routes that a lot of people that work at SRF can use to bike to work every day. So we have some people in our group that actually work exercise into their everyday work routine. So as you get older, you'll come to realize that you don't have as much time in the day to do things like exercise. So some people, which is more common, I think, in the Twin Cities and some other cities, actually bike to their workplace. So you can bike 8-10 miles to your work in the morning, then bike home, and then all of a sudden all your exercise is done. So that is a great way for a lot of us to stay active in our lives. And one of the things we have when you think about people wanting to bike to work, you need to think about where you can park your bikes. So we have an indoor bike parking facility to everybody can keep their bikes safe and out of the weather. We have shower facilities. And so those are the kind of amenities you need to think about providing for people if they are going to be bike commuters. Some of the, just talking about play equipment, some of you maybe have been to the French Regional Park where there was a new play structure put in there. And there was an old, I think I have a picture of that. Are you guys seeing all these images, I hope?
Yes, we can see them. They're great.
So this was the old play structure that some of you might have been played on when you were younger. And we actually worked with a group of fifth graders to help us design the playground. So one of the things that was lacking here, there wasn't a way for physically challenged kids to get to this huge play structure, which is probably one of the most popular ones in the Twin Cities with all the net climbing and so on. So we worked with the kids to help us design the playground. And ultimately, we came up with an idea that's very similar to what they had there with a lot of new nets, but we designed a ramp walk system that somebody that might be in a wheelchair can actually go into the structure and actually enjoy and interact with their friends. So when you're thinking about recreational activities and amenities, you need to think about equity and how you can accommodate all different types of user groups to use play equipment. And one of the other trends, I know some of you might be thinking about play facilities and active. One of the trends we're seeing is, this is actually I think it's termed a challenge course based on kind of some of the ninja stuff a lot of you guys have been seeing on TV and so on. Play manufacturers are starting to develop circuit training courses where kids can time themselves going through different types of courses and contraptions and so on. And it's really just another way to try to get people more active and try new forms of recreation. I think that's most of the slides I had, and I didn't want to get too long with talking about some of the things we do, but I think, you know, parks, most people have parks within probably 3 to 4 blocks of where you live. Most do, not all communities. So most cities were designed for people that once they get outside their door, there are so many ways you can stay active by just going to your local park. Most people have athletic fields, they have playground equipment, they have wading pools, they have all these things that are there for the community to stay active. And I think the environment we now is really, I think, making us more aware of that, because we're all sitting around a lot more, not doing as much as we all want to do in our lives. So getting outside to move your body, whether there's a million different ways you can think about doing that, but parks and trail corridors are definitely a great avenue for you to use and utilize and stay active. So I think that's most of my spiel.
Awesome, Ken. Thank you. So now sometimes there's some questions, and let's see. Oh, a question from Kaden. What's your favorite park in the Northern Metro?
Oh, the Northern Metro. Well, I do like since Plymouth is kind of more north and west, Maple Grove has a park called Central Park. That's a fantastic place to go in terms of a city park. French Regional Park is also a great park facility there. They have the new play area. They have a beach facility. They have great biking trails, great ski trails that are lit at night. And I think the thing that's been really makes parks really successful is that they're as multi-purpose and multifunctional as possible. And I think we're all trying to think of how we can all make parks serve a lot of different user groups. So it's not only for summer use, but for winter use, for cross-country skiers or snowshoers. You really need to think about how you can design activities and program that can be for year-round use. So those are just a couple that I've visited that I've really enjoyed what they've done at some of those.
So Ken, as part of your job, do you have to go try out the trails to make sure they're okay and get some exercise?
Well, so oftentimes we're involved with overseeing the construction of those trails. So when we design the trails, then a contractor will build the trails. So we have to go out and inspect the site to make sure the grading is correct on the trails, the alignment is correct on the trails. So in terms of that, we're involved with making sure that the trails is built how it was supposed to be, as how it was designed. But I'm an active recreational guy, so I love getting on a lot of the trails, and I've been on a lot of the regional and local trails around the Twin Cities.
We've got
and I like them all.
We've got a great question, and I think this speaks to use. Are playgrounds or fields better for parks?
Well, I think for younger kids, I think playgrounds are a great way to stay active. Now, most playgrounds are designed to accommodate kids roughly from kindergarten through 5th grade. And as you guys get into 6th grade, you're not as interested in playgrounds, although there are some that are being designed now that are trying to accommodate older kids. But a lot of kids, when they start getting into 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, they might get into more organized sports, whether it's soccer or baseball or football or there's a million different field sports out there. So I think it's good to have a balance of both, right? Because when you design a public space, you want it to be used by as many people as possible. So you need to partition that public open space to have a play area, to have athletic fields. Maybe it has a skating area to be used in the winter. All those things are important to try and make it as multifunctional as you can.
Great. We have a question about what's your favorite part of your job?
Well, I do think I have a really fun job because it's really a lot of fun designing public parks, right? I mean, I get to design play areas, trail systems that are used by the public. So that's really rewarding for me, where I can design a space that I know a lot of people are going to enjoy and get a lot of use out of, and really make it an integral part of their life. So I think that's really probably the most rewarding part, is I'm designing things for the public to use and really to try to keep them healthy and live good, healthy, active lifestyles.
Right. And we have a question saying, do you think people should be playing on a playground, walking, running every day?
Well, as most of you can still remember, when you were in school, at least when you were younger, you all had recess to go out every day, right, as part of your school routine. And as you get older in middle school, you're not probably going out as much or playing on a playground. But I think especially as a young person, it's important for you to get out on a playground every day. And even if you're a middle school, I think to try to do something every day to stay active. It might not be being on a playground, but it might be going to ride your bike, or being in a team sport, which is a little challenging right now for a lot of people. But just finding anything to do to get your body moving every day, 30 minutes every day is, I'm not sure if Lucian would agree with that, but that seems like a good general rule for everybody.
And then we have a question about how did you end up in this type of job?
Well, so when I was a young kid, Cheryl and our family, we would, when we were young kids, our parents took us on these long vacations, 2-week trip. We'd get into our station wagon and our pop-top camper, and we'd head west. And we'd visit national parks and state parks, and we went all over the country. And I think that's where I kind of grew an appreciation or a love of the great outdoors. And so when I started to grow up, I always thought about, well, how can I do something that would remind me of all those fun things I did growing up? Because I really enjoyed going to campgrounds and going to hike on trails and bike on trails. That was just a big part of our family and what we did together. And I was fortunate enough to find a profession that I could do that really is making it fun all the time, right? We all want jobs that we're passionate and we enjoy doing, because that's what makes you successful in any career you choose. You have to have your passion, right, for that job and what you do.
Great answer. Oh, and those vacations were great.
Yeah.
We've got a question from about how do you keep playground sports fields safe for kids? That's a really good challenge. That's a good one to, I think, answer.
Yeah. So playgrounds, there's safety standards that all playground equipment is designed to adhere to. So oftentimes, wherever the playground is located, usually the city staff have certified playground inspectors that go through and inspect playgrounds every year before they open them in the spring. So they look for things that might be broken, or typically when they're all installed, they meet specific code requirements. So say there's monkey bars, you want to make sure a kid can't get their head stuck between bars. So they're all designed with a tight enough space where none of those kind of entrapments can happen for children. But I think it's really about wherever the playground's located, that city goes through, and most cities do have pretty stringent inspection programs for other playgrounds before they open them, at least every spring when people start to use them again. In athletic fields, I think typically that's more about weather related to keep the field safe. So if a field's getting really wet, they're not going to really allow people to be on there to not only make it safe to use, but also make sure the turf doesn't get destroyed with too many people using it in heavy rains and so on. So most of you have all experienced probably having games canceled because of too much rain. And then if you are playing in the rain, you can see the damage you can do on a field, right? When it gets, especially like playing soccer, you can tear up a field fairly quickly in bad weather.
Great. I did have a question, are you seeing different sports become more popular, or are more fields needed, and some sports maybe declining in popularity a little bit?
Yeah, there's been some trends with youth baseball is not as big as it used to be in a lot of cities. Now that's not all. There's still a lot of kids that play youth baseball, but there's been more of a trend to convert some baseball facilities into soccer fields, because soccer has always been popular and still getting more popular. There's trying to think some other sports that are getting more popular. I'd say anything that's field related. So there's how come I can't think of it now? Frisbee football. That's not the right term.
Help us out. What's the name of that?
Somebody. Lacrosse is the other big one.
Q&A. What's the name
Lacrosse
of
is, yeah, lacrosse is also the big one that's getting more popular in a lot of middle schools and high schools. Ultimate, thank you. Ultimate Frisbee. Yeah, so those things are all really can be done on the same field configurations as soccer, whether it's lacrosse or ultimate. So that's the good part. But So there are definitely more baseball fields that are potentially getting repurposed into soccer or just open square fields.
Okay, I have one last question. I'll give kids a chance to type any more questions in the Q&A, and that would be, what do you see as the biggest challenge for cities for parks? Like, what is it? Money? Is it land use, or is it there's not equipment available, or what do you see as some of the biggest challenges for cities to change things?
Well, money is always probably the biggest. I mean, most parks when they're designed, they and the amenities that are designed can last 25 to 30 years, but after 30 years, there are a lot of, like, a playground structure could maybe last maybe 20 years in a public park. So the city, a lot of cities have challenges allocating enough budget to make sure they can replace that equipment every 20 years. And some of the challenges many cities have, a lot of the parks were all designed, say in the 1970s, in like a city like Plymouth or Eden Prairie. So when they're all designed at one time, they all wear out at the same time. So I think cities are challenged with trying to make sure they can keep up replacing playground equipment or upgrading athletic fields that also wear out and have to be regraded and seeded to make them playable and so on. So making sure that the cities allocate enough budget, in a cyclical process is probably a lot of the biggest challenges many cities have with trying to keep their parks updated and current and make them, everybody wants the latest and greatest new play equipment that changes, every couple of years. There's always new things, because you obviously want things that people are attracted to come and want to use, because if it's old and worn out, nobody's going to want to go there to use it, right? So you got to have updated equipment that people are going to continue or be attracted to come and stay active and go visit that place.
We have all the questions answered. I did think of one more question that I wanted to ask you, was that in some of our Minneapolis parks, we have restaurants. Does that bring more people to the park, or is that more of a headache to parks? I think we used to think of parks as a place that we bring our own food, but does that encourage people to go to a park just because there's a neat place to, back when we could all eat out, eat easily in restaurants?
Yeah, no, I think programming parks like that with eateries is definitely bringing more people to parks. So once they go, either before or after they eat, they usually go and hike in the park, or there's a lot of great examples of that happening all over, especially Minneapolis. It's just another great way to attract people. I mean, eating is great in a park, but you also you don't want people just go to the park and eat and leave. You want them to eat and try to burn off that food they just ate by doing some walking or hiking in the park.
We have one last question. It's a really great one. It says, do more kids play in the parks in the city or the suburbs? And I'm thinking you might have some data on that.
Oh, that's a great question. I think, like, within the city of Minneapolis, way back when the park system was designed in Minneapolis, almost every residential area or house is designed within a 3-block radius of some type of public park and open space. Now in the suburbs, that can be a little more challenging because things are a little more spread out, right? When you go out to the suburbs, houses are farther apart, parks are generally farther apart. So I would probably say that parks, like in a city environment, probably get a little more intensive use than in the suburbs, just based on the fact that they're not, all parks in the suburbs aren't maybe quite as accessible as some in the city are. Not to say they don't get use, because all the suburban parks are well used, but if they're not quite as easy to get to, then they're probably not going to be used quite as much.
Great. Thank you so much, Ken. I want to thank Tom and Lucian as well for their awesome presentation. I'm giving you a round of applause. I hope it inspired you guys to think of some possible solutions for your research project. If you're interested and you're in one of these focus areas and you'd like to meet one of our research, you can email me at Cheryl@HighTech Kids, and I can potentially put you in touch with them if you need to get some feedback on your project. And I want to wish you guys a great season. Some of you are going to be doing your technology checks and practice robot runs pretty soon. So coaches, if you haven't signed up for that, you should be signing up for that. We'll be seeing you like this on Discord. Again, thanks to our presenters. It was fabulous having you here today, and I hope everybody gets a chance to go outside and run around on this gift that we have of a 70-degree day here in Minnesota. So thanks again.